You have a new piece out here, and I found it extraordinarily fascinating. You actually have been diving into birth rates, and you mentioned that there was a little bit of a upturn, a little bit of a mini baby boom in the last year. What did you find there, Ryan?
Right. So the CDC posts monthly updates on CDC Wonder, and that's Centers for Disease Control, obviously. And the birth rate of the United States went up slightly this year by 0.5%, which is a decent amount for a single year. But it didn't come from Americans. It came from people, mothers who were not born in America. 1 in 4 births in 2024 were by women who were not from America. Particularly large increase came from people on the NCHV parole program that Joe Biden did. So it's people from Nicaragua, Haiti, Cuba, and Venezuela. Venezuelans specifically have a 55% higher birth rate than they were last year. Part of that is because there's more of them, but part of it is because they're on this 2-year program that Joe Biden made up on his own that does not give them refugee status. It just allows them to apply for asylum while they're here, and then they have to go home if they fail to get it. Well, if you fail to get it, as most of them probably will, because they're probably not legitimate asylees, what better way to stay in the country than have an anchor baby? And really, birthright citizenship, as Donald Trump is becoming president and people saw that this election could go either which way, a number of women either came across the border, illegal aliens, came across the border pregnant in their 9th month, or they got pregnant while they were here for the purpose of delaying any possibility of deportation or making it much harder to separate families or use whatever case that was. So really, the baby boom was a big part of the baby boom came from our anchor baby system and our birthright citizenship, which the Supreme Court, by the way, has never ruled that illegal aliens have the right to birthright citizenship. That's been the way we've worked it. That's the way we've been carrying it out. But the Supreme Court has never actually ruled that illegal aliens have that right.
I want to emphasize that that is so baked into the consciousness of what we think our law, but it's actually not. How did it originate? And is it time to bring that up for a declarative Supreme Court decision? Would we win? I'm not even sure we'd win with this court, Ryan, because people so believe that it's the 14th Amendment, right?
14th Amendment.
That is what the 14th, yeah. By the way, the 14th Amendment has some wonderful parts of it. It also has stuff about like debt ceiling. It is the most expansive. It does. It has like 6 or 7 clauses that are not just about the abolition of slavery.
Ryan and I actually were talking about this when we were discussing the segment, as how literally the 14th Amendment is
the catch-all.
It's a catch-all, and it's used for a myriad of societal ills, for bad judgments up and down the aisle. And this one, I think, Ryan, maybe you know the history better than I do, but it was basically, it was like 1890s case or something. And we just sort of assumed. Yeah.
It was for an Asian man who had he had status to be in this country. It was like a work status of some sort, or like a work permit of some sort. And he had a child who was here, and his child was an American citizen because he was legally allowed to be here. And that was why they sat there and said, if you're legally allowed to be here and your child is here, then their child is a citizen. It was never ruled for illegal immigrants. I think it was Justice Black who wrote something in an indentation in the 1960s or 70s, and Coulter constantly writes about this, in 1960s or 70s, that created the idea that it belonged to everybody. But the Supreme Court has never ruled on it. If this court did it, I don't know. Roberts has been fairly good on immigration. The two that have not been wonderful are Gorsuch and Barrett. So I don't know. I really, really don't know. But it does need to be decided upon by the courts because it has been a major factor in birth tourism. People using our country's law to sit there, come here, and be granted welfare status because they're their child, and make it impossible to deport them.
Well, and Ryan, again, you might know this better than I, but here's the actual language. This is from the 14th Amendment. It says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States thereof, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, meaning they're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Now, this language has been parsed apart, a lot over the years. And if we go back to the original, the debates within the Senate when the 14th Amendment was getting codified, what does that us? I mean, were senators literally saying like, hey, if you just drop a baby off on this side of the border, then obviously it's an American? Or was subject to the jurisdiction thereof meaning something different?
No, of course they didn't think about illegal immigrants in, 1866. This was not even like part of the conversation. It was for the descendants of slaves, so that way they couldn't be denied citizenship, and it made sense in the time. It had nothing to do with it. They weren't even thinking about immigrants. It was literally just for slaves, and it has just been, this open-ended question, and we have lived with it. But it is time, I think, for the Supreme Court to at least rule upon it, because I don't think there's a way of getting an amendment changed through the states at this point, or through the federal government. I think only the court could do it, and I think that we would probably have at least 4 votes off on the court, and it would just be decided if one more join them. But it's very clearly not in the Constitution that anybody with a plane ticket could have their child be a subject of the United States, a citizen, and therefore make it very difficult to deport and have every benefit of the welfare system and the education and everything. No, this is ridiculous. No one thought this in 1866. There were no planes, and now there is this whole entire thing. There's a whole entire economy built around it. But specifically, when you have a president like Joe Biden, who so flagrantly ignored the letter of the law and protecting our borders, and let so many millions upon millions of people in this country, larger than most states, is the new population that came in, they're all going to be trying to have children because they want to sit there and have an anchor to protect themselves, to be part of the United States. It's ridiculous, and it needs to be looked at this point. And it's obviously now 1 in 4 births are by mothers who were not born in this country. That's huge.
Well, and Ryan, I mean, I don't know if you saw the news. Charlie, you saw it. The number 1 baby boy name now in the UK is Muhammad. Just happened this week. I think it was already the case in like Ireland or Scotland, but now over the entire UK.
Yeah, I think it was England had that a couple of years ago, but they have this story out almost every single year. I think it's almost clickbait because they just change the way the spellings are. They combine all the spellings. It's not
right.
Like
they
not that big of a story. Yeah, exactly.
They requalify how they do it. But nevertheless,
but an executive order would go directly to the Supreme Court if you want to get a decisive decision on it. And again, there is no guarantee that we would win. The side that we believe that birthright citizenship is, there's no guarantee. It's so baked into what we think is constitutional. And you're trying to tell me, Ryan, there hasn't been a Supreme Court decision on this in 100 years?
No. Not on illegal immigration. Nope, there hasn't been. They've never addressed it. They've never talked about it. There's no answer to that. And it's a major thing. What are we going to wait for? 1/3 of births being from non-citizens? There is no greater country than the United States in the entire world. Who wouldn't want to try to come here? And if all you need is a plane ticket and 9 months of being pregnant, just wait around for 30 days. And that's why places like in Los Angeles and Miami and in New York, that's what they're all doing. I mean, in New York at the Roosevelt Hotel, there was a ton of 9-month pregnant women getting in there knowing that Joe Biden was going to deport them and that they were going to have an avenue towards citizenship when their child sponsored them one day. It is American people are being hoodwinked into this because there's been no action by the courts, and the courts need to sit there and say, no, an illegal immigrant's child is not a citizen by the 14th Amendment.